or good afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. This is Bruce Rawles, and with me today is Jackie-Lora Jones. And today, Jackie is going to be giving us a little bit of background about her life and her story and her wonderful online video interview series, The 24th Hour, and which is 24thhour.com, right? Correct? Is that correct?
That's right.
Anyway, welcome, Jackie. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking some time to share with me about your journey through life and beyond.
Oh, Bruce, thank you so much for having me. It's so awesome to be here, and I love all your interviews. They're great.
Well, it's mutual. It's mutual. So we kind of agreed that it would be fun to just have mutual interviews, and so this is Jackie sharing on my series, and I'm delighted to be part of yours. So
Oh, we can't wait for your episode. It'll probably be up in the next week or two. So we're looking forward to that.
Thank you so much. So let's start by wherever you want to start. What would you like to share with everyone?
Well, sure. I have had an interesting journey on my way to A Course in Miracles, as probably many of your listeners and viewers can relate to. But my background is in broadcast journalism and psychology. And so I have a private therapy practice that helps people awaken their minds to spirit. And my podcast, The 24th Hour, helps people do the same. Hopefully, that is the intention. And we started the 24th Hour to really, it's very Course in Miracles centered, although we do have very interesting interviews with, mediums and energy healers and things that help us with our curriculum here in the illusion while we awaken. So it's always nice that we need to follow our dream script. And sometimes that calls for utilizing the things in the world, which we know. And I think as long as we put everything under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, no matter what we're doing, it facilitates our awakening here. So I just was in the spiritual buffet line, I guess, like so many people, Bruce. Right? I know you and I talked about that too. And it just was so wonderful, as, in the 90s was really my big time of just reading every book I could get my hands on. And lo and behold, I stumbled on A Course in Miracles in 1999, I think. In 2000, there was a book by Karen Casey. I think it was Daily Meditations on A Course in Miracles or something like that. It had 365 days. That really, I took that little book with me everywhere. And fast forward a little bit here, lo and behold, in 2004, when I read The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard, that was just the last thing that I needed to kind of put everything in place. There seemed to be just a touch of something that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And then I just remembered. When I read that, I just remembered it solidified the non-dualistic message of the Course for me in an even deeper way. Of course, I thought I got it, right? I thought I got the message, and then we get it a little deeper, and then there's a little further to go, and then so that's really the short of it in a nutshell. So I incorporate the Course in my practice. I have mostly Course in Miracles clients, although not everyone. And it's just been a joy, and the podcast has been a joy. And so that's a quick version. Quick version of the last 20 years. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to the spiritual buffet line approach of okay, there's got to be something that works here, right? And we keep trying, and we keep climbing all the ego's metaphoric ladders of, oh well, that's something in the world over here, and illusion A and illusion B and illusion C, and pretty soon we start to generalize and realize, well, they all seem to end up like Lucy holding the football for Charlie Brown and yanking it away at the last minute, And,
It's a great analogy.
and it's like, why do we keep falling for this? We the used car salesman or whatever metaphor works. It's like we keep buying lemons, and eventually we realize, well, there's got to be something else, and not that there's anything wrong with the search, but I think the seek but do not find ethic of the ego. Eventually, we like the Course says, we have a finite tolerance for suffering and pain, and eventually we realize, well, maybe there is another way, maybe there's a real alternative here somewhere. Yeah.
You're right. Excellent. And that's just it. I enjoyed everything that I was reading. Mm-hmm. And what happened for me was I didn't find that permanent peace, or there was always something missing, like certain spiritual systems would work temporarily, or they were very helpful in opening my mind in general. I wouldn't trade my path for anything. It's just that when I found the Course, I resonated with that, being there's just one problem that we believe we've separated from our Creator, and the Course presents the one solution.
Yep, exactly.
Which is the atonement principle, which is, guess what? Let's correct your perception. You didn't really separate from your Creator. And when I realized that, all the little answers lay within that. When you realize everything can be grouped in, there's just one problem and one answer. That really resonated with me, and it just answered any question I've ever had. And people that understand the Course system know that. You think, wow, this really really answers everything, because all the little answers are contained in the one answer. Mm-hmm. And so the spiritual buffet line, as we call it, was great. I mean, I learned so much. I think we have stepping stones to open our mind. At least I did. And it's like I just opened it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and then I was ready for a system like this. So, like A Course in Miracles. So.
And it really simplifies things, doesn't it? Because once you discover
sure does.
that there's a principle that is behind all of those approaches, and obviously on the surface, A Course in Miracles is another approach, and yet there's, I think, a resonance or a recognition, perhaps, that happens with so many people that we realize that what's behind the words, and I think it's that same melos that Ken Wapnick talks about, that's behind the writing and behind the music, behind anything that's inspired, that we're drawn to. And there's a lot of things out there that have that quality, that reflect that awareness, that are, like you say, kind of landmarks along the way of where we have resonated with that longing to return to that awareness and that simplicity.
Oh, yeah. Well said. Absolutely. And, it reminds me of an important point. It's the Course is, since it's not about behavior, it teaches us, it's about how we're thinking.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you're reading or doing in the world. As I understand you, it's who are you doing it with?
Bingo. That's it.
Like Mark and I, my husband and I, we have so much fun listening to these tones, these abundance meditations and everything. It makes us feel good and everything. We know we're doing that in the pre-programmed dream script. We know that that's part of the illusion and the magic of it. It doesn't matter. We don't say, oh, we're Course students, so we know this isn't real. We follow our curriculum. We get up in the morning. If this is our curriculum, you do it. We just invite the Holy Spirit in with us. We understand where we really are and everything. But it would be just like eating food, eating your dinner, whatever you're doing, whatever you would do in your everyday life. What are you thinking while you're doing it? Which teacher do you choose?
Exactly. Total oxygen addict here. Just as a confession. So I mean,
you too?
I know. I mean, I
Shocking.
haven't been able to kick it. So,
yeah.
but but yeah, we need what the course refers to as magic. We need all
Yeah.
the the stuff that keeps our comfort zones from going off the track,
Right.
while we still believe that we are, trapped in these little finite, you know, belief systems, basically.
That's
And
right.
the need machine is that's another Ken Wapnick phrase that I really like. But
Ah, we love Ken.
yeah, yeah. But that's all part of the process, isn't it? Just to look at all the things that we do, and then not make a big deal out of the specifics, and actually turn it around. Use the exact same craziness of egos, insane curriculum, to become part of our classroom of forgiveness, that turns it around and says, instead of seeing things as uncorrectable sins, they just become gently reversible errors or mistakes. They're just like backing out of a cul-de-sac. When you discover you've made a wrong turn, you don't stay in that cul-de-sac the rest of your life. You can put it in reverse and make a little turn and get back on course. So
Absolutely. You have the best like analogies, the best metaphors. That's so true, and forgiveness has been such a big and important part of
mhm.
all this, which of course is the cornerstone of A Course in Miracles, and what wakes us up. It's just life changing, isn't it?
It is. It is. Do you have a particular process that you use for forgiveness, or things that jog your memory that you find helpful?
I do. I used for so long, I wrote down the forgiveness thought process and disappearance of the universe,
Mhm.
that was given to Gary. You are not here if I think you're here, and the cause of the problem, but I made you up. That whole one. I wrote that probably from 2004 to 2006, Bruce. I had that kind of written everywhere as a reminder.
Tattoo, maybe.
Yeah. In the
Burn into the retina.
car, burn into the retina. Yeah. And I used that all the time. And I think for me, in because I did that, now it's a part of I don't always have to think, oh, I'm forgiving, it's just there. It's just become the habit. But so I love that. But I also love forgiveness is the key to happiness, because I remember, for me, my process, everything that we think we want as bodies, like we want security, that we think things will bring us, we want peace of mind, we want to be happy, we want to feel like we have a purpose. Forgiveness provides all of that
Exactly.
for
Exactly.
us. And of course, we're talking about true forgiveness here, as it's explained in A Course in Miracles, which is different than the regular Judeo-Christian or Christian. You're forgiving somebody for what they've actually done and making it real. Whereas the Course is teaching us that we are actually forgiving people for what they haven't done, because it's our projection and we made all this up. So people aren't really there. There isn't anything really to forgive. And so I think of that forgiveness is the key to happiness. I just love that lesson. It's 121 or 122. And it just reminds me, and joy is such a part of my life. And, the Course says that, well, the Holy Spirit's curriculum is a curriculum of joy. It's the ego that is complicated. And that's where all our sin, guilt, fear, and suffering lay. So I always think of forgiveness as the key to happiness. And it reminds me that it really is offering all I want, because the things we think we want that we're going to get from people, from our special relationships, from objects or cars, jobs, it's not the permanent piece. Once you get something in the illusion, what happens? The ego presents something else, but you don't have this, but you don't have that. But now I need this. But it's a never-ending cycle, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I oftentimes, when I think about it, I reflect on the idea that the ego's strategy really is to conquer the universe,
Yeah.
because it thinks that somehow it's separate from the rest of the universe, and so
Right.
therefore everything that is not the self is something to be overcome, or
Very good.
to battle against, which is of course insane. But that's the a telltale sign of 100% insane thought system.
That's
But uh,
right.
but we have the 100% sane one to turn back to and restore our mind to that awareness, and that's I think where the real freedom comes in. Like you say, it becomes an opportunity to practice that forgiveness process and see that everything out there is a projection of my mind, and I choose what it is to me by which teacher I'm listening to at any given moment, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's such a powerful thought system, the Course, because I think that everybody has some type of, you can term it any way you want, divine spark, memory of who you really are, that the Course teaches we take in to the dream, that memory of where and who we really are. And the Course calls that the Holy Spirit. The reminder of where we really are. I think in everybody's mind somewhere, however it comes to them, we know there's something missing. We know there's something, but we just can't put our finger on it. So whether it's A Course in Miracles or another thought system that works for people, I think it's so important to have a thought system and be consistent with it that helps you awaken to who you really are. And Course in Miracles just does a beautiful job of laying out the text, the workbook, the manual for teachers. And as the workbook undoes that idea of separation from our Creator by leading us through the lessons to side more with the Holy Spirit, choose the Holy Spirit more, getting used to that instead of defaulting to the ego, is a wonderful system.
It
And for
is.
someone like me, I loved having a lesson a day and something to focus on. I loved doing the workbook. It was so helpful just to have that focus for me. I just liked it. And then when I was done with the workbook, I would just have little Post-its or little thoughts like every morning that would, resonate with me, that I loved. I would get up and I would say the prayer that most Course students know. I am only here to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent He who sent me. I do not need to know what to say or what to do, but He who sent me will direct me. I'm content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. And it seems just so simple, but that's a surrender. It just says, hey, now I'm choosing to use my body as a communication tool. Now I'm under the guidance of the Holy Spirit. I have a purpose. So whatever I do, it's under the Holy Spirit's guidance. And then you say, wow, we're getting the illusory self, small s, out of the way. And for me, it's so much easier and better to live that way, because I really feel that not Jackie, but, this consciousness that needs to wake up. I feel like I can be of service in the best way here in the dream, join with other minds, and we all awaken at once, since there's only one mind. So anytime we're forgiving and choosing the Holy Spirit, that's not a part of the ego script. That is not a part of it. And so you're breaking free. And since there's one mind, all minds are joined, you're joining with everybody and helping everybody awaken,
Exactly. And I like the inclusive language that they're using of everybody, because I think that's, for me, one of the tools or the reminders that I use is if I'm leaving anybody out, it's one of the more challenging ones, but
yeah,
to be
right.
sure. But
we're not without challenges, right?
Exactly. But if I leave anyone out of my circle of oneness, if you will, or my realm of forgiveness, then I'm essentially saying no to that curriculum of the Holy Spirit or the Jesus of the Course by saying that no, perfect oneness had a flaw.
Yeah.
It left this guy out, or this lady out, or whatever, or this
Right.
or this group of people, or this
Right.
particular persuasion of whatever, be it any kind of things that we use to distinguish one group from another, the we they paradigm. And so if I
Right.
catch myself investing in that, And election years are particularly great mental exercises for that, to just notice when our buttons are being pushed, aren't they?
Well, there's a lot going on right now politically, isn't there? This is a big year. Yeah.
Yeah, but we can use it anytime, anywhere, can't we? Just
Sure
notice
can.
the least little irritation and realize that, okay, that's a clue that it's time to do my forgiveness homework and
Great point.
practice that. Yeah, yeah.
Great point. You brought up that any trigger, any little trigger, anything that disturbs our peace of mind, like you said, it can just come up, is an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful opportunity to get that inclusion again, like you said, and say, oh, here, it's all a part of the same hologram, no matter what form it's taking, my upset at the moment, right?
Exactly. And since you said opportunity, it reminds me of another favorite acronym that's from your brother-in-law's book.
Oh, yes, Gary. Yeah.
Just another forgiveness opportunity, which I just love. In fact, I like that acronym so much, I made a shirt with those 4 letters on it over the planets. So I figured anything on the planet that disturbs me. Not that there aren't any intergalactic things now and then, but that could be distressing. But most of the time, it's usually something on this planet. So I figure that covers a lot of ground. So
that covers it. That's great.
Anything involving space, time, individuality, or guilt, So that's why the acronym JIST comes to mind as another one that covers those. So
JAFO, just another forgiveness opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
It is. It is.
And it's a great reminder because, again, it's something that we can use and latch onto as a funny, good reminder. Oh, it's a JAFO. Mm-hmm. I'm irritated in the grocery line. All right, it's a JAFO. It's just another forgiveness opportunity.
Exactly. And when we can remember to laugh, and not in any kind of derisive way, but gently, just say, oh, yeah, there goes that dysfunctional, or as Ken Wapnick says, maladaptive solution to the non-existent problem, thought system again.
I love that. Say that. Ken, again, I love that.
He said he wanted to copyright that, but I don't know if he ever did. It's maladaptive solution to a non-existent problem.
I love that.
Isn't that great? Because that basically sums up the ego's ridiculous, silly, it's forgivable because it never happened strategy, And,
right.
Yeah.
Right. I had a question. You just reminded me. I had a question come up in my course group last night. I facilitate a weekly course group here in Los Angeles. And it was interesting about what you said about we have to, never forget to laugh and everything. Well, it's interesting because one woman was asking me about the strife and everything in the world. And I said, you know what? This is a great question because when we're saying we have that piece of the forehead is serene, eyes are quiet, smile more frequently, we never forget to laugh. It's really a right-minded laugh. It isn't a metaphysical sweep of the hand. Oh, it's an illusion. We don't have to take anything seriously. That's a little trick of the ego to get in there. Right. We are talking about the right-minded smile, which is really an awareness that what we're looking at is not really occurring. That's done in the mind. You will still always be appropriate in your behavior on the level of form and helping those in need. And to borrow one of your terms, Bruce, which I love, when we choose our inner kindness teacher, all we would be able to do is to be kind with people who are suffering or in strife or something. So when we're thinking, oh, and never forget to laugh at all the silliness and goofiness, it's true, but it's the right-minded smile and laughter of recognizing that it's our dream, but not laughing at people or circumstances it's very real in the dream. Exactly. So she just brought up a really important point. I said, yes, let's clarify what we mean by that, So Course in Miracles is all about what you're thinking. And so as we choose, again, our inner kindness teacher, which I love that, you will only be kind, which will lead you to be appropriate in any situation. And while you're helping people out, you know in your mind that you're really joining with them on the level of the mind. Behavior's just the effect. And that is how people respond to us, right? In the mind, even if they're not aware. the Course is teaching us we don't join as bodies. Jesus speaks to us in language of bodies that we need to understand, or else we couldn't hear the voice in the dream. But we take those things as metaphor and realize that, wow, he's really talking to the decision maker. He's really talking to the one mind that believes it's here. And so sometimes it's really helpful to remember that even if it looks like someone isn't accepting your forgiveness or out on your screen in the time-space dream, it doesn't look like behavior is changing, joining at the level of the mind is always working. And that's the Holy Spirit's job, or Jesus's job, that they promise us will take care of the larger part that you cannot see. And I think that's why it's so important we don't judge behavior and everything, because there's so much going on when we choose forgiveness of the Holy Spirit. It's shining into the entire hologram. That's your seeming past lives. That's every relationship you've seemed to have had. It's everything. So I always want people to know you're always making an impact, even if you can't see it with the body's eyes on the level of form. Would you agree with that?
Oh, certainly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because you bring up such an important point, because the non-dual metaphysical teaching that A Course in Miracles is one example of, is only and completely about the mind. And if we read it on any other level, it becomes confusing. And
yes.
And I think that's where I think it takes a while to, each time you go through it, to let it sink in a little deeper. And then some of the passages kind of jump out at you, just like, oh, this isn't talking about this Bruce figure and this this dream character. This is talking about the decision-making faculty that's behind everyone's eyes, that can make a decision for which thought system it wants to identify with at any given moment. And that's hugely empowering. Like you say, that's where the real power is in the mind, because anywhere else we're kind of, and again, that's sort of the ego's thought system. We're at the mercy of circumstances.
Right.
if we think we're bodies, and that's where the Course is addressing us, is because we think we're there. And so that's why it seems like so much of it is written at the cognitive dissonance level, to where it says, okay, here's what you think you are, and here's what you might want to consider that you really are, and look at that incredible difference in the outcome, and as well as the feeling that you have, and it's amazing.
Oh, you're well said. And, that brings up another great point. The Course in Miracles it's gearing us towards the experience that what it's saying is true. Not to say that A Course in Miracles is the only thought system that can get you home. It says even itself in the Manual for Teachers, there are thousands of paths. This is just one. But while we're talking about this, it's our chosen path, it really is geared toward the experience that these words will be true for you. And when you get that experience, like you said, it's that good feeling that you really do take your power back, because this really is talking to you as mind. As we practice forgiveness and our mind is healed of all this unconscious guilt, it's an enormous relief. Think of it. When are our lives easier? When we have more or less guilt? When we have less guilt playing out, the Holy Spirit is collapsing those scripts, so to speak. If we don't need to learn those lessons because of our forgiveness, which is under the Holy Spirit's direction, changing the scripts and everything, boy, when those intervals are taken out, we don't need to play out the linear time, sin, guilt, fear in the same way. Joy, remembering who you really are, you're punishing yourself less. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, and that punishing yourself less ties into another thing that ties into something else you just said, which is, the judgment. And it seems like when we catch ourselves, indulging in the resistance to the truth, instead of beating ourselves up and say, oh, well, there I go again, we could, like you say, we cultivate that gentle inner, essentially eternal smile that's always there, remembering that that's our real nature and everyone's real nature, and seeing all of spirit as Gary's writing suggests, and his audio, fearless love, which I love that, seeing all spirit in everyone. That to me is just such a potent idea.
Oh my gosh, fearless love, great.
And that lets everyone off the hook, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And by doing that, we let ourselves off the hook, and we take our dream figures a little less seriously, and that ease, that peace is not a small gift. It's not a little. That's not a little outcome, is it?
A tranquil mind is not a little gift. We don't realize, do we?
Yeah.
We keep practicing how wonderful it is to really have a peaceful mind, to look out with the body's eyes. And again, like we said earlier, it doesn't mean that everything in our screen is always changing in our favor, but we will be less invested in the screen. We are less invested in what the screen is doing. And that is the promise of practicing the course, that if we just do what's asked of us, gently, not beating ourselves up, this inner peace, we slowly, our default setting in the mind, which I always tell my clients, changes from, defaulting to the ego to defaulting more to the Holy Spirit. And it just becomes more a part of who you are. And so you're seeing with spiritual sight, which is vision, which is an attitude, which is how you're thinking about people, even though the body's eyes still see Bruce, still see Jackie, still see the neighbor, still see whoever it is, but you're just thinking about them differently. Like you mentioned, the dream figures are just not as real. You're just not as invested. And that's a good thing, because again, as you're joining in the level of the mind, everybody's healing.
Exactly. And ironically is that when we are not as invested in the outcome, which I think my favorite line in the Song of Prayer about true prayer is forgetting the things we think we need. It doesn't mean we don't contemplate them at all. It just means that we don't invest our identity in those things, and when those outcomes happen or don't happen, it's like, oh, okay, well, I can still be at peace no matter what, because that peace is not dependent or contingent on anything that's happening in a dream. And when you phrase it that way, it's like, well, yeah, okay, sure. But most of the time, we get so invested, we're so busy with trying to make the dream work, and we get in this frame of mind where we're talking about the things we're talking about, and that seems to make sense. And then a few seconds later, we're off. Now there's all these things and I want to accomplish today or get done or whatever. and then and I think one of my favorite anecdotes of some of Ken Wapnick's audios, where he says, after you leave this room, there's an invisible vacuum that's going to suck that awareness out of your mind,
right.
and you'll just go about back the way everything's what. But I think that's where it becomes obvious that the way out of that whole self-condemnation pattern is to just be gentle with yourself when those inevitable things happen. And like you say, pretty soon the default over time shifts slowly from the condemnation and the judgment of self, which even though it may seem to take the form of somebody else that we're condemning, to the more gentle, peaceful default of forgiveness, and that is such a tremendous shift. And I don't think we usually notice it until after a number of years, and we realize, gee, I really am more peaceful overall.
Right. Great points. It's so true. I think, like anything, if you stick with it, if you stick with the practice and just be vigilant. Yes. And boy, it's worth saying again, we've said it a couple times already, be gentle with yourself. I always tell people we're so hard on ourselves because part of the ego script we know is punishment, and psychology 101 would even say, guilt demands punishment, right? So we're so used to that we're so hard on those. That's been one of my big forgiveness lessons, actually, personally, in this lifetime. Very, very critical, very hard on myself. My husband will call me out and he'll say, boy, you're really hard on yourself. And I just have to remember, I'm like, okay, I am. I'm making this very real right now. I'm thinking I need to get all this. I'm not doing a good enough job. I mean, it's just been a theme, Bruce. You know, I just have to.
I think you're the only one, Jackie, who ever does that. Not.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's
I've
probably
worked on it. Yeah.
7 billion of us that do that. Wouldn't you think? Yeah, I mean,
it's just this self-criticism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Relentless. But it does get easier, like you said, just with practice. And now I even laugh. Another great benefit of practicing a thought system like A Course in Miracles is I do identify, I think of myself as mind now for a long time. It's, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like you.
Yes.
The body just isn't, of course, this is not to say you don't take care of the body, you know, you don't want to, it's not about that. It really is, who are you looking, again, who are you looking at the body with? I can take it much less seriously. I mean, this is so silly, but I have to be honest. Like, there was a time I wouldn't run to Ralph's or Whole Foods in looking what I thought was not appropriate. Oh, I'm going to see someone or whatever, and I don't. And it's okay, you know, it's okay, but I'm laughing because I'm giving an example of less investment in the body. I looked fine after being in sweats and doing a workout. Do you know what there's less
I totally
investment in them. So I'm just using that example because it's like there's nothing wrong with if I want to dress up and go to Ralph's. You don't judge that. It's just that my focus so much more now is just on spirit and the forgiveness that some things that used to be so important about the body, silly little things, but it's not in my awareness in the same way anymore. Does that make sense? It's
completely. Yes. Very well put. Yeah. Because if we catch ourselves investing in form, the thing to do is, like you say, is just forgive and just say, oh, there I was making a big deal out of nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
And Shakespeare, much ado about nothing, you know?
Oh, yes. Shakespeare.
And what a great reminder that if we, begin to do that investment, of making it about things that we think we need or want,
right?
In terms of the form, is to gently turn our minds back to the content in the mind, which can always be about forgiving our investment and our identification with those specifics, right, but using those very same specifics as our classroom, and that gets us back to our mind.
Oh my gosh. That is a great point. And I think we touched on it, but I don't think it can be said enough, Bruce, that we don't have to judge our curriculum. Mm-hmm. That's what we use. That's what the Holy Spirit and Jesus uses to get us home. So that's why I wouldn't have to judge that trip to Whole Foods or whatever. You just kind of laugh at it, you smile, you say, this is an opportunity to realize that at this moment I was really invested in the body. Yeah. That has nothing to say that it's not okay to dress up and look nice when you go places. If you don't and you really feel like doing that, you're making it just as real on the other side. But I think I was just making the point that somehow you're just invested less, and then it's okay if you do or you don't. You don't judge yourself either way because it's just part of your curriculum. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the Holy Spirit uses what the ego made to get us home. So why would we judge the ridiculousness and the ridiculousness that we project onto others or onto ourselves? Rather, let's switch. We just use it as the classroom. We say, these are images right now that I'm viewing, that I'm choosing to view with a different teacher. So as A Course in Miracles says, we are reviewing mentally what has already gone by. How can we start to take things seriously when we really absorb the concept that not only is it already over, but that it didn't really happen, but it appeared to happen. So once we get over there and start to integrate those ideas on a deeper level, it's almost impossible with the practice of the court to take things as seriously. Mm-hmm. It's just impossible to do it, right?
Exactly.
Explain it?
Oh, completely. Yeah, well said. And I think what you were just saying of how we can use that, everything that happens to us with two teachers. Another metaphor that I think was one of Ken Wapnick's audios that I really like was the difference between going deeper into the cave of ego's darkness, which is we follow
Yes.
that dark thread far further into fragmentation and darkness, or we simply turn it around, borrow a little Byron Katie language there, turn it around
Ah,
and use that dark thread as a golden thread. It's the same thread, but when we
yes.
follow it, we took that awareness into the dream with us, and that thread really is that Holy Spirit, the Jesus of the Course, inner kindness teacher, whatever we want to call it. But we take the hand metaphorically of that thought system, and then it becomes a golden thread by which we move away from all the labyrinthine, paths in the cave of the mind, back to the light where we realize that there's just one truth, and we're all that truth. And but we use the specifics, and that becomes
Yes. To
the,
get
the
there.
classroom that we use the golden thread to navigate with, and makes a whole different experience, doesn't it?
Oh, it sure does. Yeah, and you mentioned Byron Katie, love her. And there's just so many nuggets of wisdom and all these metaphors and
Mhm.
all the things that we use because we need these concepts. While we believe we're here, we need the symbols of the world. We need our language, and we need these things to get home. So we need these things so we can hear in the dream what's being said and slowly undo separation. So, and you're so good at that about using the different metaphors. And I think I said it earlier, and different analogies. I think it's so helpful. People hear things in different ways, don't they?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I think it's so great to have discussions with different people about A Course in Miracles, and how sometimes people hear something someone said, it really resonates. They could have heard it 1,000 times, and then it comes from you, Bruce, or it comes from Gary's books or something, and people go, oh gosh, I just got it just now, or just on like a deeper level.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's just always so fun to hear the different ways that people are saying the same message, but just might be a little different lingo or something like that. I find that so
Exactly.
helpful.
It is, and like your analogy of noticing the contents of your mind when you got ready to go out on an errand. It's like it's those simple things that sometimes we need
So
those
simple.
specific examples as reminders that it can be anything and everything that brings us back to the
Everything.
mind. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Something so silly. Well, when we think of it, we are wired when we're in the ego thought system every moment since the projection of the world came from first the thought of sin, guilt, and fear. We see that projected outward.
mhm.
Why would we be surprised that at every moment something's trying to trip us up in the dream? It was made that way.
Bingo.
So if we can just remember and go, of course I'm getting tripped up by these silly little things. The Course says there's no order of difficulty in miracles. And since A Course in Miracles teaches that a miracle is a change in perception, it doesn't matter if it's something small or something seemingly large or something. Miracle transcends all that because all of it is unreal. Any upset, any level of sickness, anything, a mosquito bite, or anything that disturbs our peace and is trying to convince us that we're a body, can be used by the Holy Spirit to say, choose the miracle, the shift in perception. Let's correct what's really going on. If we accept the atonement for ourselves, which is the correction of perception that we haven't really sinned, just encapsulates every single thing. We think things are bigger and smaller than others, and the Course is gently reminding us that it's all the same because it's all part of the same holographic illusion, the time-space dream. And I always find that incredibly helpful to remember that, because we have levels here. We think things are but there aren't levels where we really are.
Exactly. Yeah, we all tend to take the dream so seriously, and but we don't even think of the world as a dream most of the time, because we're such, like the word you used earlier in our conversation, powerful. We're so powerful that we actually made up this hologram that is so convincing, and the production values in that hologram, we can get blindsided by that because we think it's real, and boy, we invested a lot of our identity in this, and by golly, we're gonna play this game through,
Yeah, that's right.
thinking that there's something still that we need to win out of
Yeah.
out of a dream drama that hasn't ever worked for us if we look at it honestly, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said. So we can chase and chase and chase and chase all we want, but the ego's motto is seek and do not find. And so if we just remember the illusion's set up that way so that we're always striving until we choose again, and then we realize, okay, we're really okay. There's nothing to prove. I'm not guilty. I don't have to advance, ahead of colleagues and all these things. And it's really interesting. The course is not about behavior. So it wouldn't say anything, again, like we mentioned earlier, about not following your curriculum. So you're going to get accolades and awards people will give you, and you're going to advance in your careers and everything. Of course. But who are we watching that dream with while all that is going on? We don't need to apologize for our curriculum. We don't need to feel guilty about it. We don't need, if this is, as Ken would say, if this is our curriculum, we do it. That's what we do. But who are we doing it with?
Exactly.
Which teacher? How are we viewing what's going on? That's what A Course in Miracles is saying. It's trying to pull us back to the mind. So there's no judgment about whatever's going on in your dream, but let's use it. It's just opportunities. So, as you go to the grocery store, as you accept your award, as you advance in your career, as you're a wonderful mother of 4, as you're an artist, as you're a therapist, as you're whatever you are, put your skill sets under the direction of the Holy Spirit.
That's it, isn't it?
Let it go. Yeah. Whatever happens, happens. It's great. There's no need to, again, apologize for anything. Sometimes in spiritual systems, people think it's not spiritual to do this or that, or have this or have that. And one of the things I love about A Course in Miracles is it's not about behavior. We have to talk about the dream to get us out of it. The Course is given within the ego framework where it is needed, it says. It says nothing about this or that is not spiritual, meaning trying to spiritualize events in the dream. See, I think that's such an important distinction about the Course. The Course is not about fixing up the dream. It's waking you up from your thought that there is a world. So whatever you're doing in the world, it's okay. Meaning we don't have to feel guilty about it. Do you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
It's one of the things I really love, about A Course in Miracles is that reminder to pull it back to the mind. And then you can go on with your curriculum in peace, whatever that is.
Yeah, I think it's about looking at when we're invested in outcomes and appendaging our happiness on specific things happening or not happening, and
Right.
But it's so easy to unconsciously put that dream repair technician hat on, and then we realize, oh, I'm at it again. I'm trying to fix the dream,
Dream repair technician.
And
Exactly.
we all do it. It's like suddenly, so we're like. Okay, ma'am, I see you have a dream that needs repair here. Let me get at it, and I'll kind of thing. But that's just crazy. We just do that so many times unconsciously, and kind of like the Course says, we don't realize we've picked up the sword. Well, it's like, what's this doing in my hand again? But every time we use any kind of judgment against ourselves or each other, we've metaphorically picked up that sword. One of the things you said a few moments ago about using the idea of the dream kind of reminded me of and psychotherapy in particular of one of the things I was listening in one of Ken Wapnick's audios the other day, and actually reading one of his Lighthouse articles about
Oh, those are great.
the royal road of the unconscious, which is what Freud basically gave us. He was talking
Yes,
about how
from Freud.
he basically said that the dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, but where the Course takes that and picks up where that left off is it says, well, the waking dream that we call our life is no different than the nocturnal dreams that we typically call dreams, and the only difference is that it's just a little, the focus knob maybe seems to get a little sharper or something, or maybe the sensibility factor seems more real because after all, this morning when I woke up, now I'm done dreaming, right? Well, maybe not
Yeah.
so much. But the beauty of that, I think, is that we can, if we remember to see this life as a continuation of the same dream that we had at night, but just a different context, but it's still dreaming, then from that perspective, we can afford to forgive ourselves if it's a dream situation. And I think that can be very empowering too, like, which ties into what you're just saying.
Wonderful point. Wonderful point. Isn't that interesting, Bruce, to recognize that? Like when the Course says all our time is spent in dreaming, we can read that, but then when you put it that way, when we wake up in the morning, we're waking up to duality. We're still in a dream. You're right. It's just different forms. The content is the same in the mind. Right. The mind is still asleep, dreaming. So when we look at it that way, it can even be just a moment of, I'm gonna think about that. That makes sense. It's another little kind of thing in the mind that you can contemplate, that with the practice of forgiveness and with further study, it just becomes more and more obvious, or more and more like you start to know that you're dreaming. You start to have the awareness of dreaming. The more and more you choose to observe your life and become the observer, you realize that you're in the Holy Spirit's thought system. You're dreaming when you're in the ego's thought system. You're asleep. And then when you choose the decision, when you go back to the decision-making mind, which what we really are, who the Course is talking to, and choose the Holy Spirit, you start to realize more and more that you really are dreaming. I've had the experience, everybody has their own experience. I've looked out the window and I'll see like the skyline or something of Century City here in Los Angeles, and it's a very familiar skyline for us who live here. And I look, and it just looks like a set on the 20th Century Fox lot, or it looks like a set. I almost look at it and it doesn't seem real to me. Does that make sense?
Completely.
I look at it's a backdrop and I go, wow, I really am. I feel like in a virtual game. For years, I talk with my sister Cindy about it all the time. She'll call me, or I'll call her. We'll say, I'm just really feeling the dream right now. I know I'm dreaming. We laugh, we'll call for like, I'm just really feeling the dream. There's no way to put that experience into words, but you just know,
You just did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like we're all in our own Truman Show, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many wonderful movie metaphors.
That's right. The Truman Show.
That give us an example of that, this is all made up. It's just an elaborate set with amazing costumes and, down to a subatomic level out to pan-galactic, and everything in between. But it's a movie. It's just a silly movie.
It's a movie in the mind.
And we've made such a big deal out of it. And it's just, it's so gently forgivable and laughable. And it's the same curriculum, the same script, but I think it's kind of like the commentary, that when you watch a movie, they have the director's cut audio. Sometimes
Yeah.
you go back, and if you really like the movie and you want to hear what the director thought about it, you
You
can
go back. Yeah.
toggle that setting on and listen to what the director said.
Mm-hmm.
I think what happened is we kind of got we chose, because we were so invested in our separate identity, we chose the ego's director's cut, and so that soundtrack is playing most of the time, unless we, like you say, switch defaults. I love that, what you said earlier about switching the default, because I think that's what we do, is we switch the default to having the ego's director's cut on to the Holy Spirit's director's cut, and you can only listen to one at a time.
Good point.
It's a binary switch. It's
That's
either
right.
or. But
It's either or.
yeah, but it seems like we can kind of do a pan pot thing but it's any given instant, in any given moment, we're just listening to one. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're two mutually exclusive thought systems,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So you're either in one or the other, at any given moment. And if there's anything that disturbs your peace, you can be sure that you've hired the ego again. And
exactly.
As my husband always says, if something riles him, he's like, well, I thought I fired that guy. Must have hired the ego again, because here I am, so upset about this, whatever it is, and you're just able to laugh about it more and more. And I think that awareness of just being gentle with ourselves in the dream, in life, in what we call life here, just being gentle. I just focus on that so much. We just don't need to be hard on ourselves. We don't need to beat ourselves up about not doing the course correctly, or so-and-so over here seems to be having these experiences, so-and-so over here. The course, although we have course groups and it's great to talk about it, it's an individual curriculum with you and the Holy Spirit, or you and Jesus, or whoever you want to practice it with. It's your individual curriculum, in a sense, that we all have our course lines that really stick with us. We all have the things that really make us go, yeah, So be in your process, be in your thing, and talk with people along the way, if you want to, because it's so helpful, and it's such a great reminder. But you could do A Course in Miracles silently your whole life, and no one even has to know. That's the whole point. It isn't something you have to proselytize for. It isn't something you have to go out and tell people this is the way, and all that. It's just not. It's one path of many. It's a great path. I love it. But it can be done silently. It can be done, and no one would even have to know, which I believe, I'm sure there are many people out there that are doing that. And they're just practicing it as they can in their minds, and not say a word about it, So any path, I always want to say, just be gentle, be gentle with yourselves. It's so important.
That is so important. And I like how you brought up the fact that it is an individual self-study curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, I want to extend a little kudo from a fellow study group member here in Livermore, California, where I've been living for a while.
Yes.
Who raved about the class that you and your sister did not long ago. So I know that's not a unique thing. So kudos to you and all the work that you're doing in that regard, and in addition to your wonderful video series. So
how very thoughtful. Well, it's great to be of service in that way. So if people are finding that helpful, that's the intention. So wonderful.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share? Should we? We've gone on for about an hour, so
it's fast.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so fast.
It does go quickly, doesn't it? Is there anything else that you want to share? I think I mentioned your website. You want to give the exact spelling of it, so we get it right?
Oh, sure. Thoughtful. Well, sure. Anybody can go to 24thhour.com, and it's spelled out 24th hour, no hyphen, .com, or people can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/the24th hour. So yeah, our website has all the podcasts that you can check out my blog page. There's some videos and some fun things about the course on there. And if anybody is a listener in Los Angeles, you can also email me, Jackie@24thhour.com. And if you're interested in a weekly course group, I have a Tuesday night course group. But yeah, just reaching out to anybody is, who's around. You know what I love? I wanted to mention one thing. It's Ken's The Lighthouse series, but the lighthouse is a metaphor. I feel like the course is for those who find the lighthouse sits there. The lighthouse is there for the boats if they need it. The lighthouse doesn't go out and call to the boats and draw them in.
Hey, you.
Hey, you have to come here. But it's like a beacon.
Uh-huh.
Hey, you. No, it just is there, the light. And you're a light, Bruce, in my eyes for people. Well, you're such a resource. I think that it's so nice to have people out there for people to come to when they resonate with this message. That's really what it's about, is just kind of being that lighthouse. And then the people that find you or find it. It's such a beautiful thing,
Yeah, well, thank you, and thank you for sharing this hour with me. And
thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
My total pleasure. And let's do it again. And
I'd love to.
Anything else? Just as we wrap up.
No, except for I'm looking forward to posting your episode soon. I think we might have mentioned at the beginning on the 24th hour. So that'll be in the next couple weeks or so. So if anybody wants to subscribe to that, they can go to 24thhour.com and subscribe at the bottom of the welcome page. And that way, when new podcasts go out, people can be aware. So
great. Now, I've watched most of those, I think, if not all of them. And by the way, and they're wonderful. So great work.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks to you and Mark. And anyway, I've been speaking with Jackie-Lora Jones, and this is Bruce Rawles. And you can find me on acimblog.com and Facebook and places like that. And anyway, thank you all for joining us, and we'll talk again soon.